So let me just go straight. I'm going to ask Chris Hart what he's drinking tonight, what he had over the weekend. But let me start with the unemployment figures, which retraced lower to 33.9% in the second quarter from about 34.5% in the first 3 months of this year, 2022. And that's good news, by the way. However, there's a whole lot more on the macro side that the second largest economy has to deal with to cut the jobless rate much lower. Raise taxes, make the economy more efficient. Chris Hart, who is the executive chairman, is chatting to me. Executive chairman at Impact Africa Investment. Impact Investment Africa is in Cape Town tonight and is chatting to me. I'm sure whatever it's timing to do a show tonight first. I'm trying to get something to the Beer Guys Association wants a very better tax between them and the rest of the industry. But that's a different conversation when the sun goes down. Let's talk about the job losses in the South Africa. Good number, 33.9%. Is this an indication that everything is okay? What sectors were responsible for this unemployment better figure we got?
No, I think it's a huge relief that unemployment came down. It was above 35%, and coming below that level, one still needs to reflect that it is catastrophically high. And at 33.9%, that's the international comparison that one can make. The expanded definition, still above 40%. The South African economy has a very, very long way to go before we can actually say things are settling down. The unemployment rate still is an indication that the South African economy is in crisis because it's simply not big enough. We're not growing enough. We're not growing fast enough to actually absorb and actually be an economy that serves and can accommodate all the people that live in South Africa at the moment. And that's basically what we need to deal with. The biggest, in fact, I do believe it is the biggest single issue that South Africa needs to deal with, because it remains at crisis level, but the fact that it's coming down is encouraging, because that the previous number really was the high point. It came down certainly by more than expected, and that suggests that that maybe there's an underlying strength in the economy that's not that hasn't been picked up. It was unfortunately not in the manufacturing sectors, mining and agriculture, where the unemployment picked up. It was more in social services and the like, and one needs to still see what I call the primary and secondary industries, where the real value chains start in the actual economy to be where we want the strength. But I think with the COVID restriction now gone, the economy has done pretty well, especially after the enormous load shedding that we experienced in the last quarter. So it does suggest that the underlying strength, and it is as I say, it's encouraging. I think with the high commodity prices, that has also helped quite a bit, because it does really put the wind at our backs, as it were, from an economic point of view. But still a long way to go.
Yeah, Chris, South Africa is Africa's most advanced economy, well industrialized. So why is it difficult to create jobs in such an economy? Because everyone thinks that, well, if you have an advanced economy, you've got a very robust industrial sector, mining sector, financial services, tourism, and all of that, albeit the COVID-19 pandemic. Why is it difficult to create jobs? Is it the population growth that is eating into the growth? Or what exactly is going on? Is it lack of investment?
No, it is a lack of investment. It's a lack of investor confidence. It's really a function of government policy that has really been disastrous and a declining functioning state. We've got a very, very incapable state at the moment, and that against that, the private sector has held things together in South Africa over the last 15, 20 years. It's deteriorated, particularly when state capture came on the scene, and it's really broader than just state capture. And it's a loss of efficiency, a loss of effectiveness of our institutions that has really damaged South Africa. South Africa, if we just kept up the average growth rate since 1994, we wouldn't have the unemployment rate that we had. We'd be closer to 10% if we just kept to the emerging market average. In other words, not really outperforming emerging markets, just the average. It's just that South Africa has been underperforming significantly, and since the global financial crisis, the underperformance has increased more, and that's when the state capture and the wholesale looting really became rampant. And we haven't recovered from that. And that's, the diversion of resources has not been encouraging. So we're trying to put that together, but it is actually going to be a long road before South Africa can really say, okay, we're out of the woods again.
Okay, so here goes the OECD, which is the Organization for the Economic Cooperation and Development, advising the administration to raise taxes and sell state-owned enterprises. And you just talk about inefficient utilities or state-owned enterprises, South African Airways, Eskom, and a few others. What's your take on that, on those suggestions by the OECD?
Well, the OECD, it's always interesting to hear the developed world, which is really what the OECD represents, recommending to emerging markets that they should raise taxes as is the want in the countries that they come from, like very high tax countries like France, etc. For South Africa, raising taxes at this stage would be an absolute suicide suggestion. The economy is already struggling, and by raising taxes, you basically shift more resources from a capable private sector to an incapable government. That's just simply the wrong way to go. We are already struggling with very, very low growth rates. If anything, the reverse needs to be done. We need to be cutting taxes so that South Africa's competitiveness improves relative to the rest of the world. South Africa's tax rates are already hideously high relative to our peers in other emerging markets, and it's one of the reasons we're struggling with high unemployment and low growth. As for selling state-owned enterprises, I think it probably would be a good thing if it's sold into capable hands and not a crony sale, because that's all it would be. It would debilitate whatever is left of the capability if that is the case, and one wouldn't have confidence that a proper sale would be. And I would be certainly very favoured in a privatisation program, but I'd be very, very cautious in where the state-owned enterprises are at the moment. I think one needs to get proper turnaround specialists and prove that these things can be managed towards recovery, and when there's better value, to actually sell it so that the state isn't so intrusive in the economy. Again, one needs to do this to spur growth in the economy. Ultimately, okay. That's what needs to happen.
Okay, so Chris, let's round it up around the exchange rate for the rand right now at about 16.38 today, and the interest rate outlook from the Reserve Bank for the rest of 2022. I'm sure you pick a bit of what Jerome Powell says last week about that fighting inflation is the main target of the U.S. Fed. So if you look at South Africa as Africa's #1 emerging economy, where does that leave the rand? Where does that leave the interest rate? What's your outlook on all of this put together into what you call the Business Confidence Index?
Yeah, I think on the international side, we're seeing increasingly the risk off trade is really gaining strength. That you can see the risk off trade means a flight from virtually every other currency to the US dollar. And you can see the euro is struggling, the rand is struggling, and that is a general thing. The rand is going to be struggling a little bit more if we do not get growth up. And it's going to be very difficult because the Reserve Bank has to raise rates. not because I think it will be effective. It's just that against inflation, it just isn't right-sized at the moment. Our inflation rate is, north of 8% and rising, with the actual repo rate at 5.5%. The Reserve Bank is way behind this particular curve, and they've got some catching up to do. However, raising rates in the face of a slow and sluggish economy with the unemployment rate that we've got is going to be an exceptionally hard road ahead. And so that may still mean that South Africa's overall country risk is still rising, and that does put the rand on a weaker trend and the back foot.
Chris Hart, the Executive Chairman at Impact Investment Africa, thank you so much. Let's leave it there for tonight. We appreciate your time with us on the show. Have a great evening.